Cesar Chavez went 12 rounds with Canelo. He is an ex-world champion in boxing. So
Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. hasn't won in more than 10 years of those points. What are you trying to sell?
There's another one, and a right from Jake Paul.
The bell rang, and history was in the making. Jake Paul was about to square off against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., a former WBC middleweight world champion and the son of boxing royalty.
Campeón, dile.
When you were born, I was already a champ.
There's two things you can't beat. There's two things you can't beat. Me and your drug addiction.
Well, Julio, you have had your struggles in recent years.
Paul came out cautious, hands high, pumping the jab. Chavez Jr., with his traditional flat-footed Mexican style, stalked forward, looking to test Jake's composure. Early on, Paul surprised everyone as he wasn't backing down. A stiff jab landed, and then a right hand over the top. The crowd gasped. Chavez responded with sharp counters to the body, digging into Paul's ribs and testing his endurance. But Paul took it well. He circled, kept range, and won the round on activity. In round 2, Chavez began walking Paul down. He cut off the ring, landed a clean left hook to the body, then followed with an uppercut. Paul's head snapped back, but he didn't fold. Instead, he gritted his teeth and responded with a two-punch combo jab to the face.
Word on the grapevine is that Jake Paul will be fighting Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. in his upcoming fight. That is apparently going to be announced very, very soon. Now, this is actually quite an interesting one, really. Jake's going to get a lot of stick for this. It is another retired fighter. However, this is a guy that realistically has only been retired for about 4 years. He also isn't a 60-year-old Mike Tyson. Chavez Jr. is only 39 years old. The last notable fight realistically for Chavez Jr. was Danny Jacobs. That was back at the back end of 2019. So you could say that realistically the guy hasn't been fighting top competitors for about 5.5 years or so. The thing that does worry me just a little bit is that Chavez Jr. was pretty much fighting at middleweight during his, let's say, prime. And no doubt that this fight will be at cruiserweight, if not heavyweight. So good on Jake Paul for fighting someone who is semi-recently retired this time, and is actually a boxer and not an MMA fighter. But again, shame on Jake Paul for fighting someone who is considerably smaller and will likely want them to balloon up to cruiserweight. Maybe even heavyweight if Jake's sticking at this thing of he's a heavyweight now. Let me know in the comments, will you watch this if it's on Netflix and it doesn't cost any more money like the Mike Tyson fight did? Are you interested? Should Jake Paul be taking on more active professional boxers nowadays? You know, not someone who has been retired for 4 or 5 years.
In round 3, the fight heated up. Chavez landed a heavy right hand that wobbled Paul slightly. For the first time in the fight, Paul clinched smart survival instincts. After the break, Paul came back with a vengeance. 3 jabs and a looping overhand right caught Chavez flush. The middle rounds saw Paul adapt. He used lateral movement, controlling distance, and threw combinations instead of single shots. A 1-2-3 combo staggered Chavez in round 5, prompting the crowd to erupt.
Everyone else is just trying to gatekeep or say that they're doing things for the sport or something is bad for boxing, but I'm the greatest thing to happen to boxing since Muhammad Ali, and there's no even debating that. And what I've done speaks for itself. No other fighter is building gyms, getting boxing gloves into the hands of kids, throwing multiple events a year, donating my whole entire purse back into my own charity when I fought in Puerto Rico, taking women from getting paid $1,000 to 5, 6, 7 million, breaking Netflix records, shutting down the site, 128 million global viewers. The list goes on, and I've done this in only 12 fights, where Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, Floyd Mayweather, Marvin Hagler, like, you can name any of these people, fought nobodies for their first 15 to 20 fights, and no one even knew who they were. And so my career has been different, heavily criticized from the start, but that's the mark and the sign of someone who's a disruptor and someone who's changing the game.
Jake Paul was not only in the fight, he was leading it. Chavez, meanwhile, looked a step slow. His punches came in singles, and his footwork was sluggish. Paul, surprisingly, was outboxing the seasoned pro. Commentary at ringside began to shift. Paul wasn't just a celebrity fighter anymore. He was putting on a masterclass. But legends don't fall easily. In round 7, Chavez roared back. A perfectly timed left uppercut rocked Paul, sending sweat flying. For the next minute, Chavez poured it on.
You can't make this shit up. Guys, Jake Paul fights this weekend at the same time as UFC 317. And don't be shocked, but it's another scam. This time it's against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who's 39 years old, hasn't fought in a year, and lost a boxing match to Anderson Silva, who's not even a fucking boxer and 50 years old. You guys have to know the drill by now. Take Jake Paul, minus 650, throw him in parlays, take him straight, lay the line, he's not losing. This shit's hilarious. A flat-out joke. A disgrace. But free cash is free cash. I'm not watching a second of this fight. A second. I'm just gonna watch my bets, turn green, and get paid out. Do yourself a favor. And get paid out too. Jake Paul, minus 650. Free as the air you breathe.
Body shots, hooks, pressure. Paul covered up, but weathered the storm. Then, just as the round ended, Paul landed a sneaky counter right hand. It snapped Chavez's head back and reminded everyone this kid has power and poise. These rounds were razor close. Chavez tried to make it ugly, clinching, throwing elbows, bodying Paul into the ropes. Paul stayed calm, threw quick counters, and never stopped moving. A big right hand in round 9 hurt Chavez momentarily, but the Mexican veteran clenched his jaw and came forward.
You think there's any chance this man can beat you?
Not a shot in hell. There's nothing he does that can offset anything I'm going to do to him. Not a single thing. Cardio, pace, output, jabs, body work, inside fighting, wherever the fight goes, however the fight goes, he's going to be outworked in every single round.
Paul's jab was the key, pumping, probing, keeping Chavez off balance. The final round was a war. Both fighters met in the center. Bloodied, tired, but proud. Chavez threw bombs, desperate for a knockout. Paul ducked, slipped, countered. With 30 seconds left, Paul landed a left hook, then a right cross. The crowd exploded. Chavez threw a wild right hand, missed, and Paul made him pay with a crisp jab to end the round. The crowd waited. Paul stood tall.
My final what's that smell goes to Jake friggin' Paul. Yes, as he's gearing up for his upcoming fight against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., a guy that can't win a fight, hasn't won a fight in the last 10 years. The guy's been an absolute joke. Well, Jake comes out and says, hey, listen, I'm getting in the ring with a champion at one point. I'm getting in the ring with a guy that was on top of the world at one point. All Jake Paul is selling is at one point, because Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. hasn't won in more than 10 years of those points. What are you trying to sell? Here's what I think he's trying to sell. He's trying to sell a fight that means nothing. Jake Paul, he's great on the HBO special thing, the documentary that he has, The Pauls. He's great at everything he touches when it comes to marketing. Stop trying to sell something that doesn't exist. You will never get into a ring with a real boxer.
Chavez wiped blood from his lip. Judge 1 scores it 96-94. Judge 2, 95-95. Judge 3, 97-93. For the winner, by majority decision, Jake. The problem. Child. Paul. Against all odds, Jake Paul had done it. He didn't just survive, he boxed, he adjusted, and he won. Against a former world champion. He's no longer just a YouTuber. Jake Paul is a real fighter.